Good evening, everyone. Happy Sunday and welcome to Off the Porch Live. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. My name's Eric, the Undertaker, and I'm so glad you're here.
Come on up, take a seat, let the daylight wane. Got stories in the air, and some dreams to gain.
Hey, Steph.
The coffee's warm, the swing's in tune. We'll laugh a little loud underneath the silver moon. Welcome to the porch, where the heart can rest.
Go ahead and tap on that screen as you come in. Drop in the comments where you're checking in from.
We've all got our stories and the night's still young. So pull up a chair, Porch Talk's begun. Yeah, pull up a chair, Porch Talk's begun.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Eric, the Undertaker, and I am so incredibly glad that you're here with us this evening. I'm here today along with my wife, Allison. Hello, honey.
Hello.
Oh, we have Florida checking in, Michigan checking in, NYC checking in this evening. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. We love our theme music. Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada checking in. Tri-State, Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota. Boy, you are right in the middle of it all, huh, Suzanne? We have a deceased going back to that area soon. George is checking in. Hey, Steph, welcome. Burlington checking in. Go ahead and tap on that screen if you would as you come in. Continue to drop in the comments where you're checking in tonight. We're so glad you're with us. We're going to talk for the next probably 90 minutes regarding death, dying, your own grief process, or anything that you've ever wanted to ask a mortician. That's what we're here for. And also just to check in with our fellow Porchketeers, see how the holidays were for you. Idaho and Philadelphia in the house. Boston, East Coast represented well this evening, honey. Ohio, hello from Idaho as well. The I's and the O's are in. British Columbia, Canada. We love our supporters and followers in Canada. Is that Fowlerville, Michigan? Vanessa, thanks so much. Carolina Beach, North Carolina. That's a mouthful. Thanks for joining us. And from Chicago, hey, Lori, thanks so much. Julie from Mississippi. I hope you all had an amazing holiday season. Both Christmas and New Year's, we're now through it. We are well into our way for 2026. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great year. We have much to plan. We have some major changes coming up in our family that we are excited about, that we'll share at some point. Nothing that's going to affect you all too much. Absolutely. We are going to answer all your questions in just a moment. We'll give just a couple of minutes for people to come in, and then we'll start going right into the questions. So, are you ready, Al?
I do see a few questions.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into it.
First question of the night by Sabin. Do dead bodies scream?
No, they're very silent people, very peaceful, much more peaceful than the ones they leave behind sometimes. The surviving family members sometimes scream, and rightfully so. You know, they're the ones hurting. The person that has passed away is the one at peace. So generally not. I've never had anybody scream on me that I'm caring for in the back room of the mortuary.
Judy would like to know, please tell me about cremation.
What would you like to know, Judy? That's a big subject. We are honored to explain, the whole process to you, but in the simplest form, fire cremation, which is what I think you're referring to, is a 2 to 3 hour process, 14 to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. After that 2 to 3 hours, cremation chamber door opens up, and what surprises people is what remains is not kind of soft, whispery, paper-thin ashes like in a fireplace. What remains is skeletal remains, recognizable skeletal remains, very brittle bone that has to be swept out. easily from the cremation chamber floor and then processed down to a consistency for what people think of as ashes, cremated remains. Somewhere consistency between sand and crushed seashells. So Steph says it's raining in San Diego. Steph, we just got back from that area just yesterday. So both in San Diego, North County, as well as the Anaheim area.
We had a lot of rain on the way home.
We did, and on the way down.
Wes would like to know, do you think your kids will take over the business later on?
Oh, Wes, it's there for them to do so if they wish. So far, none of them have had what I would consider a passion for it. All of them have grown up in the industry, have grown up in the family business. Gosh, they were there at the funeral home today. If you saw the video I posted today, helping out, with chores around the funeral home. But so far, none of them have said, Dad, I think this is what I want to do. Now, we still have younger ones and we'll see. But my point is this, is that as far as a family business goes, it's more than just, handing them keys to just any old business that they can take over. It's something that somebody has to be passionate about and really be built to do. And I would never force that on any of the kids. I don't want them to be miserable. And I also want to make sure that the people that they serve on behalf of our family is served by somebody that wants to be there.
Digger Do asks, do you offer pet cremation services?
We do not, Digger Do. We considered it several years ago. We looked at adding a pet crematory, but ultimately it was just going to be too much when our emphasis and our sole priority was caring for people. So pets are very, important part of people's lives. And there's some other companies that do an incredible job of that. We refer people over to other places all the time.
Kamo agrees. It takes a unique person to do this.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have to be built specifically to do it. And it's kind of a God-given calling, I consider. And if those, there's some that get into it and then kind of get burnt out or decide it's not what they want to do, and they kind of force themselves to stay in it, and it's really not good for them or good for the people that they are serving, which is probably the most important thing. But we have to stay healthy on both sides, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Danny SB asks, did you like the show 6 Feet Under?
I was I was a huge fan of 6 Feet Under. I think the writing, directing, entertainment purposes was incredible. But listen, the other thing that I really appreciated about it was how accurate it was. It was extremely accurate of the industry. Every episode started with a new death. Every single one of those deaths was an actual story from a funeral home. So we're going to do a rewatch on it. And that's on one of the goals for 2026, right, babe?
That's right.
Yes.
And no idea why, but I could not pin that. There's nothing wrong with that
comment. I know. Listen, TikTok gets, very, very specific about keeping people safe, or very picky, I guess the word.
6 Feet Under. They don't like that.
Yeah.
Michelle says, I don't take death well at all. I deal with saying goodbye. Any advice?
Yeah. That's completely understandable, Michelle, and not common. And you really don't have to apologize for it. I don't think anybody approaches death well. I mean, I certainly, even as a professional that deals with death on every single moment of my life basis, there's still situations when it hits close to home, when it hits me, that, bring me to my knees. And there are some people that have a little bit better, I guess, understanding and acceptance of death, because we're all going to face it. But I also think that it's a way of you evolving into the way how you look at life. Because really, if we focus more on life, what we're grateful for, who we're grateful for in life, then the fear or anxiety of death just kind of starts to diminish a little bit. But at the same time, you're fine, with how you're handling it also. And just take a little bit at a time, and your acceptance may increase. So
Fran Boy asks, what happens during an autopsy? Do they sew bodies back up?
Yeah. So generally after an autopsy, postmortem examination, which is often done by medical examiner or coroner, and then they will actually remove much of the organs, if not all, take tissue samples, toxicology screening, and then put them back to be returned to the funeral home. But what it does is it completely destroys the circulatory system. The circulatory system is no longer intact, which is essential for us to be able to do embalming, at least in the normal sense. So if embalming is going to take place, we're going to prepare the deceased for viewing. then we are going to have to embalm the extremities where the circulatory system still exists separately, and then treat those organs separately, and then place them back in the loved one in anatomical position. And then there's a lot of suturing. You're right. Generally between 250 and 300 stitches just to get somebody sewn back up after postmortem examination. So welcome everybody. I'm Eric the Undertaker. If you're just joining us, I am a licensed mortician, have been for over 27 years. And along with my wife and family, we own several funeral homes. On TikTok and YouTube, I am known as Eric the Undertaker, and I get to come on here and share my experiences from the funeral home with the deceased, with the family, with the funerals I've directed, and most importantly, the lessons that I've learned from those experiences. Lessons about grief, and even more importantly, lessons about life and how to live life. Much of what I've learned about how to live life and my philosophy, I've actually learned from the dead. I get to share that with you, both in my content, my Porch Talk series, and then I get to come on here with my wife with the help of some incredible moderators from all over the United States, and answer questions that you might have regarding death, dying, or maybe even anything that you've ever wanted to ask a mortician. That's what we're here for, at least over the next hour, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Beautiful Mama has 2 questions.
Sure.
First one, can people's animals be buried with them?
Well, officially, no, but unofficially it happens all the time because many people have those little redwood boxes with precious pets in them, and somebody passes away and they're going to be buried in a casket, and families will ask if they can bring it in. I said, you know what? I don't mind any personal item that you want to bring in. I'll place it in the casket on your behalf, or they can do it. But the cemeteries may not officially want to know about it just because people cemeteries are meant for people. Pet cemeteries are meant for people. And a lot of times there's not a huge cross. For pets. Yes. Thank you.
And second question, do you think
Hey,
you'll
Mimi.
do this career for a long time?
I have children all the way down to age 7. So to get all of them through college, I think I'm going to be doing something for a long time. Unless the Porch Talk take off, much, much greater. And then maybe I'll just talk from the porch and we can all, move forward putting these kids through college. But until then, it's off I go to the funeral home on a daily basis.
Monkey asks, can a pet and a person be cremated together?
No, at least not in my state. I can't speak for every state regulation, but my guess would be that no, that cannot take place. Thanks so much for the Daily Heart Me's. If you have not already given your Daily Heart Me, you're joining us. I was on earlier today, so you may have done it then. Dropping that Daily Heart Me is a great help. And what it does is it helps push out the content, letting everybody know that we're live tonight. And the other thing you can do is press right here on my huge forehead. I think it gets bigger every day. And it'll pop up with an option that you can share out the live tonight as well. I'm joined by my lovely wife, Allison. She's the voice that everybody appreciates much more than mine. She asks the questions and helps assist with the moderators in finding out, exactly what we're going to ask next. Hey, Rich. The other thing I'm going to mention real quick is that as soon as we're done with this live, which is our regular live open to everyone, we are going to have our weekly VIP private super fan live, which is their subscription-based community that like to come in and talk. Mostly, it's a little more grief-oriented, and then people just much smaller amount of people getting to know each other. It really is a lot of, it's incredibly fulfilling. It's incredibly rewarding, and it actually is pretty fun, right, honey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting to know people on that level. So if it's something you're interested in, you can preview it, but it's not at all required. We do much more public lives than we do private.
Chris asks, did you ever play the game, The Mortician's Assistant?
I did not. I've been asked about this a couple of times, Chris. Did you look it up, Allison?
I never did.
No. So we're probably going to have the kids look it up and see it because they're the gamers in the family. So maybe we'll have to have them look at it. Maybe that'll spark their interest in the industry.
If it's appropriate.
Maybe. Yeah, of course,
curious.
if it's appropriate.
Is it violent?
Then, I doubt it. What mortician's assistant would be violent?
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
It's a game. Aren't most games
violent? We'll check it out. So the mortician's assistant.
Oh, Michelle says, you seem very comforting.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. I appreciate that. I try to be. I've spent a profession trying to be. I'm far from perfect, and I'm still learning on a daily basis. But ultimately, my goal is to be able to treat people with the care they deserve, so that when they walk away from the experience and our care, that they feel a little bit better.
Mike says good evening 3 times today. Have you been on 3 times today, or is his time zone
Yeah.
3 times because we
Well,
came on last night?
No, Mike. He's right, because I came on early this morning, and then I got frozen,
Oh,
and I had to log completely out and come back on. Have you joined us every single time, Mike? I think you have. So
he wins a prize.
Mike wins a prize. Yes, he's our triple threat for the day.
Kamo says kids must be the hardest.
Kids are the heaviest days. There's no doubt about it. And it's interesting because obviously when kids pass away way too young, that's very difficult. But the other thing that's incredibly difficult for me is when young kids have to navigate the grief of a young parent, of any parent. But oftentimes, if they're of the younger age, their parents are significantly younger than the norm. And that's very difficult to watch as well.
Sweet Kimber. Why are cremations becoming so popular? We only bury in my family.
Well, I think it ultimately is a number of reasons. I think one of it is the cost. It's significantly less cost, more cost effective. I think the other thing is it allows more time, allows more options for people. Sometimes they want to split the cremated remains, or they want to scatter in a specific place that they wouldn't be able to do if the person wasn't cremated. And sometimes people just don't know what to do. And so that gives them more time to figure that out, and maybe, not completely release of the physicality of that person immediately.
Journey asks, my father was a mortician, and my siblings and I used to play hide and seek in the caskets.
Oh, in the caskets. I don't think my kids have ventured ever into the caskets, around definitely. And if you saw my post today in the chapel, they love going in and out of the pews and other areas of the funeral homes. But, what an incredible way to grow up, I think, for kids, Journey. And you'll understand this because it does teach, kids, opens their eyes. They really grow up with their eyes open to the end of life. And I think they have a built-in appreciation for life because of it, because very subtly they realize that there's no guarantee for any of us, no guarantee of tomorrow for any of us, and that we have to embrace everything and everyone that today is. That's so important to me. And if it's one thing, if I had to leave today and I could leave everybody with just one thing, and including my children, that would be it. Don't take for granted today, because tomorrow is never promised. I'm reminded of that every single day.
Daniel asks, what do they do with hip replacement in cremation?
Daniel, thanks so much for the question. And any metal is kept with the loved one as they go to the crematory, and then is removed after cremation. So larger pieces of metal, smaller pieces of metal, pins, staples, that type of thing, sometimes are just removed with a magnet that we use. The only thing that we remove prior to going to the crematory generally is anything that has a battery, lithium battery, like a pacemaker, defibrillator, neurotransmitter, something like that. That has to be removed prior, because that little battery can make a pretty big explosion that can do quite a bit of damage to the interior bricks of the cremation chamber. So welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. If you are new here, I'm Eric the Undertaker. I'm a licensed mortician. I am here with my wife, Allison, and we are honored to be able to come on and answer questions you have regarding death, dying, your own grief process, especially during the holidays, or just anything you've ever wanted to ask a mortician. When you come in, if you could tap on the screen, help notifying people that we are live. If you have a daily heart me, you can drop that in. Or one of our favorite things is those beautiful porch lights that was just dropped. And thank you so much for that, because we miss being out on our porch, but it's cold and rainy. We just finished our first year of TikTok. So this is our first winter that we are experiencing. Well, no, actually it's not. It's our second winter, right? Because we started in the winter, January 2nd, 2024. But we're still experiencing all the firsts and trying to navigate. But we weren't out on the porch when we first started. So
No.
yeah, Porch Talk started with the lives. So we're learning and growing, and we're glad you're along with us for the journey.
Mama Love 23 asks, how long does it take to become a mortician?
So depending on the state, I'm going to speak specifically to the United States, even though I know I have friends in here from other countries, including New Zealand. Hi, Amy. I saw you checking in. Thanks so much for joining. Happy New Year. But for the United States, it's going to vary a little bit from state to state. Generally, mortuary science colleges, and there is a mortuary science college, is going to require the equivalent of an associate or a bachelor's degree prior to going to mortuary science college. And that's to obtain your dual license, which is a funeral director's license and embalmer's license. Then mortuary science college is generally 2 to 3 years of academics. And I'm trying to see who I have in here. I have some incredible academic teachers in here as well, but I don't see them tonight. But 2 to 3 years of academics at the Mortuary Science College. And then there's either a 1 to 2 year internship or apprenticeship, either before, during, or after that, and a national board exam that has to be passed. And oftentimes a state equivalent as well.
I'm going to pin beautiful mama's question again. I think she might have missed it.
Okay.
Do your kids want to do what you do when they grow up?
Yeah, beautiful mama. The short answer is, so far nobody has, and we have kids all the way down to 7. Nobody has said, this is what I want to do when I grow up. And we would never force that upon them. The business is going to be there if it's something they grow into and they grow a passion for and they want to do it. Listen, all of our kids, and we have kids all the way up into the 20s, have grown up in the industry and they've worked the business because it's a family business. So their work ethic training comes from that. It just happens to come from the dead part of life. But as far as taking over the business or making it a profession of their own, not yet. We have older kids that we have one that's a performer in New York City. We have one that's applying for medical schools right now after finishing her bachelor's, working on her master's. So we'll just have to see. And then 3 still at home.
Mike, Winnings, can you tell the vaccinated from the non?
No, Mike, I can't. No difference whatsoever. No difference in, the clots or anything like that during the embalming procedure. The clots that I dealt with 27 years ago during the embalming procedure are the exact same that I deal, with now. So we've had some, situations that were definitely deaths even currently that are a result of, what they refer to as long COVID, but I haven't seen anything specific related to any type of vaccine.
Casey says, you are so bubbly and positive. How do you keep from feeling morbid or depressed from death?
Because KC, I was built to do this, and I truly find joy in every single aspect of my life, even when I'm helping a family with the worst time of their life. And I'm not ever, my joy, I never force upon them, but my joy drives my care for them. Because ultimately I know that they're going to walk away feeling just a little bit better. My 3 main coping mechanisms that keep me mentally healthy and emotionally healthy are faith, family, and fun. And fun is that joy. But thanks for noticing. And listen, I'm not perfect, right, honey? There are days that I can be a grouchy grouch. There's no doubt about it. So, or ask my kids, but we tried our best as a family just to kind of weave joy in and out of every aspect of it.
Greta wants to know, did I miss the dance moves?
Oh, Greta, you're so funny. No, I'm going to leave those up to the kids because somebody has to hold the camera, Greta. And if I were to do that, I don't think I would have a tripod stable enough to handle my dance moves because I'd be kicking it all over the place.
Also, why do you look like that actor?
Which actor?
My guess is Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman. Yeah, I've been getting that since age 12. But he's a little bit older than me, not by much. And actually he's one of my favorite actors as well. He's grown into that. I don't know how good of a kid actor he was, but he's definitely grown into one of my favorite actors as an adult.
Kim says, my mom is 92 and wants to know if there is a heaven. One, I believe. She's afraid. What would you say?
Kim, I, being 92 years old, very few of us can put ourselves into that place, and to approach the end of life, whenever that might be, is just astounding to me. But I think the more important thing that she needs to do, rather than looking forward to the end, is to turn back around on the last 91, 92 years and see everything that she's grateful for, everything that she's experienced, everyone that she's been able to love, every other people that's been able to influence her, everything that she's been able to do and see and change. And I would encourage you to remind her of that and say, Mom, don't focus on this. Focus on all of that and all of them and everything that you've done and created and influenced to make lives better for people even outside of yourself. And I think if she does that, what's coming ahead, which is inevitable for all of us, is going to slowly start to lessen.
Mary Radney Cope says, "Hey, I love this live. Always so enjoyable."
Thank you so much, Mary. I really appreciate that. So it's interesting because, boy, there's some days like today, we were just literally rushing through Costco trying to get here in time.
He's
And
like, I'm late.
I'm late. And I'm like, and my wife's like, everyone's going to understand, honey. But, you know, there are days that we kind of have to force ourselves to get here, not only physically, but even, mentally and with the energy. But once I get there, I get here. I love the energy and the response that I give back so much. And I truly get just as much from all of you than you perceive to get from us. So thank you.
King School says, "Is it true an obese person can cause a fire when being cremated?"
King, we have to be careful. A larger person, ultimately is more fuel, and that can cause not only smoke. It would have to be extreme to actually cause a fire because the modern day crematory equipment can adjust, and even some of it adjusts automatically. So the temperature, the burn rate. So we do have to be careful and monitor a little bit, but rarely is there actually a fire. But it does take a little more challenge, a little more time.
Joyce asks, "How long does a body take to decay after being embalmed?"
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Joyce. I was just talking to another associate, over the weekend that we visited, and it's hard to tell because generally when we embalm them, we bury them or we ship them off someplace or they get cremated, and so you never know really the end of the story, right? But I will tell you that oftentimes we know that we're going to have to care for people longer than what would be considered normal. Once, not too long ago, a couple of years ago, we had a lady that we had to care for, ended up being for 9 months. So we embalmed accordingly, meaning increased the index, the strength of the fluid, monitored her the entire time. Ultimately, when she got to go home into another country, she was still beautiful. They were able to have an open casket. But that was in a controlled environment where we completely controlled and monitored. If they get buried, it's going to vary depending on the environment they're buried in. How dry it is, what type of casket, maybe a vault they were in, or maybe they were above ground. So it's just going to vary a lot.
J Max says, "I'm just curious. Do you really get your loved ones ashes maybe? Or do you just get whatever pile of ash?"
Yeah, no, you definitely get your loved one's cremated remains. And per regulation, per moral and ethics, and really there's only room for one person at a time. But the system, the identification system is incredibly thorough, as even regulated, not even setting aside what we may do as extra. Ultimately, industry standard is a metal medallion with a specific number on it. That number is going to be on all the paperwork that follows the deceased, the disposition, cremation permit, the authorization, the crematory log. And that medallion is made out of a material that's not going to be consumed or during the cremation process. So after the cremation is done, cremated remains are processed. They're put into a bag, and the inner part of the urn attached to that bag is going to be that medallion. So if you ever have any question at all, you can actually go in and take a look and see.
I just saw a new friend named Taylor started following you.
Oh, thanks so much for the follow, Taylor. I greatly appreciate that. I forget. Thanks so much for follow. Looks like 24 of you have already followed us during this live. I'm honored by that. That helps build this community, gives you access to not only our live notification, but our full library of content that you can easily access. But we're always honored when people take the chance and hopefully find some value in our content. So thank you.
And there's Norma as well.
Thanks,
and
Norma.
Megan. Oh, they're all flowing in. Brenda Hunter 94. "So sad they found my sister in a woods after 3 years, but still got DNA to match with my oldest sister."
Yeah, I am so sorry. And what instantly comes to my head and my heart, Brenda, is the 3 years of just wondering and waiting for you all to be able to find her. That's an incredible additional layer of grief that I've never even experienced. I mean, I've had families that ultimately come to us after they found somebody, but not actually, from the beginning, hoping, praying, wanting her to be found, and then ultimately getting the news that they did found her and she was deceased. So I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm grateful for the technology and the science we have that were able to identify her and bring her home to you ultimately.
Digger Do says, crazy question. Do you know of any graves in existence that still have a bell?
I don't think so. I know Digger Do every now and then I scroll TikTok and YouTube just like you all. And sometimes I've seen an article about a gentleman that wanted to be buried in his recliner, and there's a glass, and I think he might have a bell that's connected to that, if I remember correctly. But no, the bell ringer, uh, I think is long gone, from many, many years ago now. So
I'm unable to pin the next one, but I'm just going to rephrase it.
Please.
Gumdrop Stinkbug says, my nephew passed away from unaliving. Did not look like him. Is it so much trauma?
It could be. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly what happened to him, but first of all, I'm so incredibly sorry for your loss. Um, there could have been a lot of trauma that had to be restored. It could have been also from the autopsy. Most likely there was an autopsy postmortem examination done, which in addition to the trauma, is significant sutures that have to be done that can sometimes distort the appearance as well. The pressurized system of the embalming process of the embalming sometimes can, change their look somewhat as well, especially if they're younger. And I'm so incredibly sorry that you and your family had to go through that. Aaliyah, thank you so much for dropping in all of those 2026 and the Go Populars. I appreciate that. Zach Huerta, thanks so much for the Daily Heartbeat. Megan Evans, thank you very much. Norma, Jamie, Jules is in the house. I see your acknowledgement. Thank you very much. Butterfly, John, thank you. All of you, and Margaret Ann, our incredible supporter, is in the house as well. So thanks so much. Just a reminder, Margaret Ann reminds me of that. We do have a VIP subscriber private live immediately following this. We'll go probably 45 minutes. Those are often more grief. This topic is generally a little more, grief centered, but sometimes it's just coming together, getting to know each other as well. So
a few laughs here and there.
A few laughs there and there, which is incredibly helpful when it comes to grief, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Carolina says, I heard that the body starts to become darker the longer it stays in a cooler.
Well, dehydration starts to take place, and definitely there can be postmortem staining as well if the embalming hasn't been done. So blood begins to settle, especially in the lower extremities, lower part of the head and face. Sometimes you can see staining. Dehydration takes place in both unembalmed and embalmed, remains. And if the person's been embalmed and it's been quite a while, the embalming process is a drying process and it can dry almost to a gray color. We call it formaldehyde gray. Mortuary cosmetics should be able to cover that, though, if at all possible.
Paulette says, when my best friend died, I was touching the blanket that was over her and I heard plastic under it.
Yeah. So Paula, that most likely what we call a unional, which is a protective suit, and it's a complete suit, sometimes just sleeves or leggings, but oftentimes a complete suit called a unional that we'll place them in. That's to protect from any leakage if there's major incisions, like from an autopsy or from the embalming procedure, sometimes edema. Can cause some leaking, and they'll put them in that suit first. It's a little troubling because shocking when you touch them, you're not expecting kind of that crinkle or that hardness, but it truly is there to make the experience as best as possible.
Sprezzatura asks, why are morticians always grinning?
Are we always grinning?
It's just you.
I don't know. I hope so.
Maybe it's just morticians on TikTok.
Maybe. I don't know about that either, but I have no reason not to grin. Listen, there's some incredibly heavy days that I deal with, and there's some, you have to be a chameleon in this profession. I tell my staff that all the time. You have to be able to stop, listen to a family, what their needs are. And if they need a smile, you give them a smile. If the smile's not appropriate at the time and they are not ready for that smile, then just a touch, a handshake or a pat or just, helping guide them through the process, whatever we are there. But when I'm home and sharing my experience with you all, I like to smile.
And like you said, you were stressed to get here on time, but once you're here, you yourself are relaxed and comfortable and happy.
Yeah, it is relaxing. This is something that is incredibly relaxing, really, for both of us. Once we get to town, and Allison and I get to spend kind of some one-on-one time. So it's become important, to us as well. And our kids are very understanding of it. And they oftentimes get a little game time, while we hop on to do it live. So
It comes out.
yeah.
Michelle says, hospice nurse here. How do you put a PT on the gurney when they are still stiff in a sitting position?
Yeah, it can be difficult because sometimes people die in their recliners, Michelle, as you know, and that's okay. People are comfortable there, and oftentimes that's an appropriate place for them to be at the end of the life as they are transitioning. So we have a beautiful page, Michelle, as well. You got some beautiful pictures. Looks like nature pictures. So I see you're one of your coping mechanisms, doing the difficult job you do, must be getting out and enjoying nature.
It takes a very special person to be a hospice nurse.
It does. And it's oftentimes people say, oh, I bet you could be good in hospice. I really don't think I could. That's not my specialty, but I admire and I am so honored to be able to partner with hospice nurses. But to answer your question, so oftentimes if they're setting, rigor mortis may set in, and oftentimes we have to move them over on the gurney. Now, rigor mortis, as you may know, is temporary. It's a chemical reaction with the tissue, and it will cause stiffness of the joints and the muscle and the tissue. But if it's left alone, it'll go away on its own. But we can also kind of manipulate it, what we refer to as breaking rigor. But it's not breaking bones at all. It's just kind of massaging that chemical reaction, out of the muscle and tissue. So oftentimes we can do that, Michelle, and get them to be, look fairly comfortable on the stretcher. Sometimes osteoporosis causes, kind of permanent, stiffness, and that's where it can get a little difficult. So we'll prop them up a little more on their side with a pillow and make them look as comfortable as possible as we're transferring them out of the residence or facility. Hey, Kayla, thanks so much for the 2026s. Happy 2026 to you. Jody and Shay, thank you very much. I'm so incredibly glad you're all here today. I'm Eric the Undertaker. I am a licensed mortician, and I have been for over 27 years. I, along with my wife and family, own several funeral homes. And on TikTok and YouTube, I get to come on here and share about our experiences that we are honored to have with the deceased, the families they leave behind, and the funerals we get to direct. And then I get to come on and share about those experiences, and most importantly, the lessons I have learned with those experiences about grief and about life and how to live life. I often say that my greatest teacher in life is death for me personally, and I'm honored to share that. And so we come on here and live. My lovely wife reads the questions that we try to get to, as many as possible, and we talk about death, dying, maybe your own grief process, or anything that you've just ever wanted to ask a mortician, but we're a little hesitant to do. We get to all those questions.
Talisha Young has two questions.
Okay.
The first one, how much does cremation cost?
So in our state, Talisha, it's going to vary by state and region, and it can vary greatly. In our state, it's going to be right around $1,000 on the low end, up to $4,000 for the exact same simple, dignified, direct cremation, meaning no viewing or traditional service prior to the cremation. But we try to be kind of right in the middle, where we can be reasonably priced but not sacrifice any quality. Our direct cremation is right around $1,900 right now.
Second question, what would stop the embalming process?
What do you mean stop the embalming process? As far as, well, first of all, embalming is not required by law. So one thing that would stop it is that the family doesn't authorize it, unless it's a specific thing that it becomes required. But most of the time that's not, and we can care for somebody under refrigeration instead of embalming. But as far as stopping the embalming process or maybe changing it, which may be what you're referring to as far as decomposition taking over, embalming is meant to be temporary preservative and sanitizing of the remains. Nature is always going to end up winning. It's not intended to be forever. So maybe that answers both of what the possible questions could have been. Hey, Mimi.
Mimi's here has a question. In church, I used to make bouquets from funeral arrangements left behind. What do you do?
So oftentimes families they don't want all the flowers, especially if we're not going to a cemetery. It's going to end with cremation, or they're going to ship to another location, or they just have too many flowers. And Mimi, sometimes will bring them back and break them up into smaller bouquets and take them to nursing homes or to facilities, assisted living, so they can enjoy them without them knowing exactly where they come from, just thinking that there were beautiful flowers dropped off for them.
Catherine says, have you ever had spiritual experience from a deceased person?
Boy, you're the first person that's actually hit right at home. Most of the time people come and say, have you ever had a paranormal experience? And I really can't honestly say that I have. Not that I am, supporting or denying the existence of ghosts, but spiritual experiences, yes. I have had many experiences that I consider miracles sent from God to help assist ultimately the family that's left behind, to help guide them, give them strength, give them peace on their journey. And they have been incredible. And Catherine, if you don't follow me already, I'm going to encourage you to hit the follow button and go to my playlist. Only one of two playlists is called Porch Talk, and go down and click on those videos, those posts. And there's several in there of the miracles. And sometimes I tell those miracles, live here as well, because they are incredibly important to me. Some of them is even very personal to me regarding my own son's death. But I would encourage you to do that. But the answer is yes, spiritual of the deceased. But I don't know if the deceased is involved in it, but I definitely consider it a miracle that's sent to help.
We have an influx of new followers right now. You hear that noise?
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks so much, everybody. We are honored you're joining us tonight, and also clicking the button to follow us and see if there's some value that's going to be added to your own life, or maybe you can share it to somebody else. If you are new, just coming into the room, if you can go ahead and tap on that screen, that's going to help let everybody know that we are live tonight, which is incredibly helpful for us. Dropping in the daily heartbeats is another thing that helps us. We do have a gift goal of the 2026. Gifts aren't, it's not that the gifts are important to us, but the numbers and the increase in algorithm, that's what's important. And what that does is it brings people, introduces them to our community. The community is truly the ultimate goal for our channel and our platform. And that goal is made up, or that platform is made up of you all. You all come in here oftentimes with your own grief journeys, your own grief experience, and you love and support one another. Strangers, you come in as strangers, and oftentimes you leave knowing more about somebody than many other people that even know about them. Because people find a comfort being in here, sharing, their grief journey, their losses, and other people come in here and support one another, both in the lives, online, and comments, and even offline, which is incredible. That's the main goal. So thank you for helping us with that.
And that's why you're always grinning.
And that's why I'm always grinning, because I am incredibly proud of that aspect. I really am.
Nooksters 25. Do they teach morticians to speak low and slow in school?
Well, they do teach us not to rush, never to panic. Listen, there's some crisis situations that come up during funerals in front of many, many people, sometimes hundreds of people, that we have to stay calm and guide everybody to a solution to. And I think we do have to acquire that skill, not only to speak slowly, to speak, with a calming voice, but also to react to things in the same manner to be able to find the best resolve and solution.
Chris asks, if it's a closed casket, do you do anything to the body?
Yeah, Chris, if we don't embalm, we care for them under refrigeration, and then we always bathe them, make sure they're bathed, shaved if appropriate, cleaned up, and then oftentimes family still brings in clothing that we dress them in as well. Even though the casket's closed, even if they're not going to be embalmed, they are going to be prepared that if somebody were to open that casket, they would still find comfort in what they see, if appropriate.
Jerry asks, have you dealt with any hauntings?
No, I honestly can't say that I have, Jerry. I've never felt anything evil. Nothing has really ever scared me. I've had some things that have startled me in the funeral home in the middle of the night, but just noises, that something falls off a shelf or thing. It would startle me even here at home. But I can't honestly say that I felt anything that I would consider paranormal. Now, I have associates and even staff members that have stories, and we keep threatening to bring them in sometimes and tell those stories. But for whatever reason, in almost 30 years, I really don't have any stories like that.
Anne Marie says, no disrespect. I've watched other people post videos of people that pass will automatically sit up.
Um, Well, you're welcome to look, Anne Marie, at any of the videos you want. But I'm here to tell you, in almost 30 years, I've never had anybody set up on me. Um, Videos can be manipulated, especially now with today's technology. No disrespect taken, but from somebody that's probably has been around thousands and thousands and thousands of deceased people, none of them have ever set up. Now, what I will tell you is that when we embalm a body, we have a term that we refer professionally that the body has set up, S-E-T, up. And that means the embalming is starting to work. It's infiltrated the tissues, and it's starting to harden and preserve the tissue and muscle. And I think at some point, maybe somebody actually overheard embalmers talking, and they said, "Ceased, I was working on setup." And I think that's where that may have come from. But any videos you see of any deceased person setting up is simply not factual.
Lily Flower, what can you advise as far as how you deal with the really bad bodies sorry, it's not showing for me,
I think
that you have to repair?
Yeah. So it's interesting because every single trauma situation that we come across is going to be very different, and it has to be approached. No two are ever going to be the same. There's going to be similarities. There's going to be people that die in a similar nature, whether it be motor vehicle accident or somebody taking their life, or a fall, or something tragically happening to them while they're hiking or something like that. They're going to be similar, but every single trauma is going to be different, and we have to approach it that way. Most importantly, though, is that the most difficult situations that we have to restore really aren't trauma. Trauma is pretty easy to find a resolve to. The most difficult thing is when people either die after a very, very long illness, and the family wants them brought back to more of a natural look when they were healthy, so they're very emaciated. That can be very difficult. And then the most difficult is when people were not found right away, and there's advanced stages of decomposition, and it's kind of a race to try to, if at all possible, to reverse that, to stop it, to slow it, and get to the person to a point that we can have an open casket for anybody in the family.
Butterfly, John, hello. Does how you pass away affect the way you will look in the casket?
It can. Sometimes, just as I was saying, if somebody's been sick for a very long time and they're incredibly emaciated, we're going to try to do restoration with tissue builder injections and that type of thing. So that's very specific to somebody that maybe's had cancer for a long time and it's just kind of eaten away at them, unfortunately. Also, if somebody was retaining fluid, if they had edema, and can cause them to be heavier than they normally would, and then the embalming is a drying process and can help decrease that swelling. But sometimes we have to counteract that because it's also going to kind of sweat the fluid out, and that can change their appearance also. So that's due to like renal failure or kidney failure, or something like that.
Just so you know, Lily Flower, who asked about how to deal with really bad bodies that you have to repair, there was a first part to her question.
Okay.
And I just want you, actually got here a few times. She's very interested in mortuary science and finds it very intriguing. So she was asking that before she goes back to school.
Yeah. It's going to be one of the most challenging, but also the most rewarding things. If it's not for everybody, and you can still be in this industry as a professional and not be an expert at restoration or even embalming. You may decide that your passion is to work with the families. I think it's great that you want to learn it all, though, and maybe it will be your passion. But there's some incredible satisfaction that comes from some horrible trauma and other situations that some people would say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't let you see your loved one, that we were actually able to change the direction of that and to be able to change, the fact that they are able to see them. And that's pretty rewarding.
Mrs. Tackett says, I have a question. When my grandmother passed, this dark liquid came out of her mouth. What is it?
So anything that comes out of an orifice after somebody dies post-mortem is called purge, which isn't really a very pretty name in itself. Dark liquid oftentimes mean that it can be stomach content, and it could have been mixed, with the embalming fluid because there's a cavity fluid that goes in. But oftentimes dark, liquid can even resemble kind of coffee grounds or something like that comes, from the digestive system.
I don't know if there's other comments from Fat Kid the Boss, but in response to Mrs. Tackett, Fat Kid the Boss, my mom did the same thing. I don't have an answer, but just lost her December 2nd. I think that was about the purge.
Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes,
Recent.
there's a kind of a second part to the embalming, the aspiration of the hollow organs that has to be done after the embalming. Because the circulatory system doesn't get to the hollow parts of the organs or what's inside the organs. So sometimes blood in the heart, or there's fluid in the lungs, or in the digestive system, lower digestive system, bowels, kidneys, or bladder. So that the aspiration has to be done. But unfortunately, not all of it sometimes comes out. And if there's any what we refer to as tissue gas, and it can force that up. And I'm so sorry it happened. Embalming's not an exact science. We do our best. I wish that some of your embalmer would have, maybe seen and been able to predict that and have redone the aspiration process, which we can do to help alleviate that.
Cheryl says, curious on if you ever disagree with the ME's cause of death and what would happen if so.
Honestly, I've never had that situation where I've disagreed with a medical examiner. We have some incredible coroner medical examiner departments in the many, many counties that we partner with and deal with. And honestly, I've never had a cause of death that has that I question. And one of the reasons is oftentimes when a postmortem examination is done, it's a long time before the results actually come out. They'll release the remains to us with a pending death certificate saying pending cause of death because pending investigation, pending results coming back from the test. It can take sometimes 6 months before that comes. But then, ultimately they take their time, do their diligence in the investigation, get the test results back. And that's why I really never question the cause of death, because they're very thorough about it. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, everyone. I'm Eric the Undertaker. I'm a licensed mortician, have been for over 27 years. I'm joined by my wife, who I partner with in owning several funeral homes. And we're honored to get to come on here and share our experiences over the last almost 30 years. Also, the lessons we've learned, and just to answer any questions that you might have. And thanks so much for joining. So we are on here at least until 6 o'clock. And then right after that, we are going to do a VIP private subscriber live immediately following for those choosing that are subscribers of ours. So.
Paw Parent asks, why would a body have gray skin color in the casket? This happened and it was disturbing.
Yeah, it can be very disturbing, and that is known as formaldehyde gray. That means that the person was embalmed with a pretty high index, high strength embalming solution, probably to the point that it was a little too much. But there may have been a reason for that. There may have been some, signs of decomposition that they were trying to counteract. So they used a higher strength embalming fluid to make sure that they stopped that or slowed it down to a point that there still could be an open casket. But one of the consequences to that is the drying of the tissue, which is what embalming does, to the point, though, that it kind of grays the skin. Only thing I question is that cosmetics should have been able to cover that. And maybe some additional cosmetics should have been applied. But I am sorry that you had to experience it.
That didn't pin. I'll try again. Tim says, do you ever have bad days mentally and cannot go to work?
No, I never have bad days. I have bad days mentally. And I do take care of myself. And there are some days that I leave work a little bit earlier and kind of close everything down for me personally, turn it over to someone else. and go spend some time with family. Faith, family, and fun are my main coping mechanisms. But I always show up, at least to get things started and to make sure that people are cared for.
Jody Kirshner asks, can you be cremated with special jewelry such as mother's rings or birthstone rings?
We discourage it, Jody, only because those are family legacy items. Now, what we do try to get families to do if they want it to go with the cremated remains is to remove the jewelry prior to going to the crematory, and then we can place those items in the urn. That way, if they ever decide that they want to retrieve those items, they can still get them. So Tom had an interesting question. Did you see that, Allison?
No, not yet. Did you want to skip to that one?
I can, or I can remember it. I know you've got a method to your incredible madness.
Let's get Jody in here. Oh, so the one I tried to pin didn't pin. If you want to read it, do you have access to it?
His question?
Mm-hmm.
He just wanted to know how much documentation is involved with each case. And it's interesting because we pride ourselves on documentation. We go above and beyond documentation for every single person and family we care for. There's certain documents that are required by the state, regulation that we have to have signed by the family. And then documentation, we use Slack Notes, and everybody has that app, on their computer and on their mobile device. And everything that we do with a deceased or any conversation we have with the family, any transfer of the deceased, any procedure we do, even fingerprints taken or anything like that, we document. So we essentially chart it. And as soon as we do that, everybody on staff knows that that was done. So if a family calls and they have questions regarding it, we can easily answer those.
K Noob House says, broke up with the Lord last year. Thank you for showing me the way back.
Wow. I am, what a way to put it. And, honestly, I'm tearing up a little bit because I think that's probably in response to my porch talk regarding that, which was at a very personal level. And that simply, can grief get you to the point that you are angry with God? And even to the point of breaking up with the Lord. And you know what? I think it's perfectly fine. And I think the most understanding person of that is probably God himself. And he understands sometimes the hurt that we go through, here in the world, outside of heaven. And he understands there's going to be some difficult things to navigate. And he's always a kind, loving, accepting God that will just simply wait for you to find your way back. And I am so incredibly honored that you found a little bit of value in what I'm assuming I said in that video, or anything I've ever said that led you back there. But never apologize for it. It's part of grief sometimes. It's part of your own journey.
I'm going to pin this question from Talisha. We asked earlier about embalming not happening, and you asked for clarification. Is this enough clarification? What causes embalming not to go through?
I still don't know for sure. Sometimes there's blockage in the arterial system, which can cause difficulty and challenges in embalming, but then, we find ways to get around it. But generally speaking, we can, unless the circulatory system's been completely destroyed, sometimes due to advanced stages of decomposition, severe dehydration, or severe trauma, blunt force trauma, that there's an issue. But then, we have to embalm extremities separately. So maybe that's the answer she was looking for.
201 Mike. Oh, it didn't pin. It's being really finicky tonight. And I'll have to re-find his question.
Well, Mike's
Mike.
easy to find.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's for some reason it's not showing me everything and they disappear. And that didn't pin either. Okay, I'm trying here. Jazzy says, can you do an open casket when no embalming is done?
We can. It's generally limited to immediate family or a small number of friends, and it's generally for a smaller amount of time. But we can truly, care for the loved one under refrigeration and, prepare them for ID viewing, which we refer to without the embalming procedure. If it's going to be an open casket or public service, then we will generally ask that the embalming procedure be done.
Dottie asks, do they remove the clothes before cremation?
Generally not. They generally go to the crematorium, whatever their, hey Heather, whatever clothing the family brings in, or if it's just the clothing that they're brought in, we just, make sure that they're clean and in a dignified state before going to the crematory.
With rigor mortis, once it's at the point, there's no coming back from that.
So rigor mortis is actually temporary, and it will go away on its own. If it's left alone, it'll go away. Those tissue will actually soften and loosen, but we can also massage it out. So it's not a stage that is irreversible. It's actually going to correct itself eventually, and we can actually manipulate and massage the rigor mortis out as well.
Anne says, how long can a body be held in the morgue waiting for son to return from Europe to proceed with funeral?
Well, Anne, I'm so sorry that you're having to do that. So generally, remains can be cared for several weeks under refrigeration. You also may want to talk to your funeral home that's helping you and make the decision to do the embalming procedure. Then refrigeration wouldn't be required or is important.
Rose asks, why does hospice cover the face of the deceased when they pass?
I don't know, Rose. That really hasn't been my experience. It might be a specific hospice and their policy. Generally speaking, our hospices that we deal with don't cover, the face. They just leave them as if they were sleeping. Sometimes, clean them, dress them, and kind of just pull the sheet up to their neck area.
Val P says, I noticed at a couple funerals, the beloved looked like they were smiling. Do you do that?
Sometimes it just naturally happens. Every now and then we can easily put just a little bit of a smile, the corners going up, but we want them to look natural, and not a lot of people, actually are smiling when they're sleeping. And that's kind of the goal, is for them to look like that. So as long as it doesn't look over the top and we can add just a little more pleasant of a look, we will sometimes do it.
Sarah says, my husband is terminal, plans to pass at home. How long after he passes will his look scare the kids?
Sarah, there shouldn't be any significant changes within several hours. Oftentimes we have families ask how long they can keep somebody at home before we pick them up. And our response generally is, within 24 hours, we would like to pick them up. So, and generally there's not much change that's going to happen as long as they're not in, an overly hot environment or something like that. Erica, thanks so much for the rose. Greatly appreciate that. Charlene, thank you so much for the 2026, as well as the Heart Me Glam Club. Sarah Sherman, Brad, thank you so much for the Heart Me. I don't know what that one is. I guess your type is something. Sent the 2026. Thank you. Lisa as well. And Aram, thank you so much for the Heart Me. Kim, Sunshine, Texas Gal. Boy, we have a lot of gifters today. Thank you so much for all the support and helping push our content and build our community. We greatly appreciate that.
Joshua Knight says, I'm scared. I'm dying, and I'm scared for my kids to see me. Can it be made to look like I'm asleep?
Joshua, I'm so sorry. And I did see your direct message kind of come through the corner. It's difficult for me to see direct messages while I'm on live, but I did specifically see yours come through and with your diagnosis. And I am so sorry you're on that journey. I don't think there's anything that's going to be scary, for your kids. And I don't know what their ages are. But if you are going to, or if you're under hospice care, or you're going to enlist hospice to be able to help you and your family through that, they're going to take good care of you and make sure that it is a peaceful, comforting, visual that your entire family can have before transferring to the funeral home or mortuary. I get why you're scared. And I always say that I'm not scared of dying. And I'm not. I don't have fear of death, but I do have a lot of questions. But what I can't say, not being where you are, is if I'm not scared of dying, but I might be, fearful and uncomfortable just, with the journey to actually get there. Just the unknown of it and the mystery of it. And that's perfectly fine. But here, friend, is my advice, which I often tell you, many other people. Take your eyes off of that and keep your eyes and your heart focused on those that are surrounding you right now and those kids that are with you and the love that you've had for them. and the influence that you've had on them and the joy that they've given you in your life, along with your spouse and the rest of your family. Just stay focused on that. Don't worry about what's coming ahead. Stay focused on everything and everyone that you have today, friend. I think that's the best advice I can give you. Peace be with you on your journey. We're here for you. Any questions you have, and I can respond to your direct message as well. You can always, if you have additional questions regarding, navigating what's coming forward to your family does, you can direct email me, erictheundertaker@gmail.com.
Are hospital morgues ever in strange locations, third floor, for example?
Rarely, generally speaking, they're on lower levels, in a basement level for whatever reason. I have had a few that are on upper levels, but generally they're going to be in the lower levels of the operator or the hospital, generally around where the laboratories are, in case they need to do an autopsy, some laboratories, for blood work and testing and that type of thing as well.
Anne asks, how long can you hold a body before funeral? Family away in Europe, unable to return until flight AV something.
Yeah. And generally weeks, sometimes even months. I mean, we've held somebody for up to 9 months once and cared for them, because of a similar situation, but they had to get somewhere else. But it shouldn't be a problem. So, if the funeral home's telling you it's going to be a challenge, you may want to push back just a little bit and explain how important it is for people to, to actually arrive so they can, help be with you and celebrate that life that is worth celebrating.
Sammy K says, you two are better than TV.
Oh, thank you so much. We beat out Netflix, honey.
That's amazing. RE77323. So I am 52 and hubby is 53, and we went and got our plots. Should we do the rest or wait?
I can't believe Gen X is buying cemetery property already. That just amazes me. It's up to you. The most significant cost change, that I can see is real estate, and that's you've already taken care of as far as the cemetery goes. If you do want to get your wishes down, for your funeral arrangements as well, and you want to freeze that cost, then you may want to consider going into a funeral home or interviewing 3 funeral homes to see what's going to be the best fit for you, preferably family owned and operated, and see what they have to offer, and then make the choice. And oftentimes you can even make payments towards that. You don't have to do it all at once. Defining Dana, thank you so much for the 2026 acknowledgments and the gifts, as well as Danielle, Mrs. Galling, 1971. Thank you for the heart me. And Serena, thank you, friend. Good to see you here tonight as well. Southern Belle, and Erica and Shirlene and Clam Club. Thank you all very, very, very much.
Back to Joshua Knight. Just an update here. Dying from a brain tumor. And does dying hurt? I'm so scared.
I don't know, Joshua. I'm not where you are. And the people that I care for have already been through what you're going through. What I can tell you is based on my experience and what people have shared with me, families have shared with me, is if you get hospice involved, they are experts in making sure that there's very little or no pain. And I would encourage you to do that, along with your family, because not only will they take incredibly good care of you, but also your family, which is probably the most priority item for yourself. You're going to start to see, Joshua, people in this community start to reach out to you here online, and maybe even offline if you're comfortable with that. And anything that we can do as a community and individually, we are here. We are here to help you. But your story is incredibly touching. I'm so sorry you're going through it. Sometimes life just doesn't seem like it should be this way. But once again, please focus on everything that you've gotten up to this point. And in my prayers, I'm also going to continue to pray for maybe healing, because who knows, miracles do exist.
Diane says, what is the most misunderstood part of your job that you wish families knew?
What do you think, honey? I think that I think the most misunderstood thing is that we spend a lot of time with the dead, and really less than 15% of my time is spent with the deceased. 85 to 90% is dealt with guiding, supporting, caring, and loving those that the deceased leave behind. But automatically, people think mortician and they think we're just in a room full of dead people all day long, and that's really not the case. I'm honored to get to help. The deceased is an important part of their story. It literally is like the cover of the book of their story that they've left behind. And anything I can do to honor, that story, I'm there. But my main focus on is the family that they leave behind. And I am incredibly honored to help them in any way I can. And most people don't understand that that's really what our main focus is.
Back crew, firefighter, EMT, nursing student. As a mortician, does HIPAA apply?
Great question. You're a busy individual. We follow HIPAA laws. We're not regulated by HIPAA, but we kind of follow and parallel HIPAA laws because it kind of transitions. Advanced Healthcare Directive, Door of Power of Attorney for Healthcare kind of transitions over to us. And so we're very protective of the privacy and the dignity of not only the deceased, but the family. And we have our own regulations also as far as who has the right and duty and responsibility and control of the remains and disposition. So we have to follow those as well.
Fat Kid the Boss. Sorry, it didn't pin. It doesn't like any of these.
What's going
There's
on?
nothing wrong with
and
it.
what happened to 201 mics?
I never found it, and it's cutting me off now. So like anything from the beginning, it won't let me go back and see. So I was never able to find it because I couldn't scroll up high enough.
I'm sorry, guys. Sometimes it just gets filters. Not that we're ignoring you. So please, just as a little commercial break, if you haven't followed us yet, I encourage you to hit the follow button. We are incredibly grateful for that. Gives you easy access to our content, notifications of live. As soon as you hit the follow button, maybe hit and follow our bulletin board as well. We send information out. We're also on YT and the same username, Eric the Undertaker, and we just started a Facebook group as well. Facebook, we share a little bit more kind of family, our family and how we navigate through death care. So trying to differ each platform a little bit. But we do have multiple platforms just because sometimes people find it easier to be able to share the content on a different platform.
Fat Kid the Boss. I'm not able to pin it, but I found it.
Okay.
What is a favorite experience you've had as a mortician, and how about least favorite?
Oh, gosh. Favorite experience as a mortician and least favorite. Well, one of the most devastating funerals I ever worked was when we had an entire family. Mom, dad, and two young children, little boy, little girl, that all died in a car accident. It was the most difficult service I really have ever directed. And the entire community just grieved for that family that was completely wiped out, taken together. And to see 4 caskets, 2 larger caskets, 2 smaller caskets next to each other, having to borrow funeral coaches, hearses to be able to get them all to the cemetery, definitely was one of my least, favorite situations ever. One of my favorite, if I had to pick one, I don't know if I would ever be able to. So many of my porch talk, talk about some of my favorite stories. But I think I will never forget. Many people will know that the Porchketeers, about the dandelion story. And if you go to my porch talks and go to the weeds, the funeral, and it was such a precious lesson, not only to myself, but to the family, about a little boy that died and his little friend that showed up to the funeral late and walked in, and the family had requested all white flowers. And the little boy walks up, kind of a shortened version of the story, walks up in his, with his dirty hands and his fresh picked dandelion from the roots and dirt, dropping as he walked up to the church after the service started, and set those dandelions up in the middle of all of those beautiful white roses on this casket, and just, in essence, destroyed the purity of the visual that was trying to create. But what actually he did was teach an incredible lesson, because that yellow dandelion in the middle of all those white ended up being far more important, more meaningful to that family and that entire church filled with people than any matching flowers ever was. And a simple weed became the most precious part of that story. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget a lot of the services, but the lesson that taught me and what it did for that family was just incredible.
Sherry, 1963. My grandson passed from SIDS. He had an autopsy, but it was recommended not to open. Why?
The open casket. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I regret that decision was made. I'm not seeing any, what you're based on what you're telling me. I'm not seeing any reason why there couldn't have been an open casket. It wasn't, obviously it was a baby that went all the way to term, and, was living outside of the womb for some time. I don't know how long, could have even been years. So I don't know why there couldn't have been an open casket. So I apologize. That was the reason, unless it was another family member making that decision.
Joyce Twiggins. My mom passed 16 months ago. She was embalmed. How long does a body take to decompose after embalming?
Yeah, it's going to just depend on the situation. It's hard to tell, depending on the environment they were buried in, or if they were above ground, how high index, how strong the embalming fluid was. But ultimately, everyone is intended, nature is intended to win, and everyone will get down to the intended state of skeletal remains in the most dignified way.
Sarah Sherman. When you come to the house to retrieve a deceased, do you zip them in a bag in front of the family?
We don't, never do. Sometimes we use a plastic sheet just to help ensure that they're secure. There's no leaking that takes place if there's, anything that comes out of the person when we're moving them. But then we use a plain white, clean sheet and kind of a blanket that goes over them with a pillow under their head.
Tim Backus. When my mom passed, her last 3 words was "help me." Why?
Oh, I don't know. And maybe it was just some pain she was feeling. I'm sorry. That's probably not the thing that you wanted to hear. Maybe she was being greeted by somebody and she was reaching out, their arm, and she was asking them to guide and take her where she wanted to go. So it may have been a positive and not a negative as well. So
Nadine Thursby. Do you see that the majority of families have division when loved ones pass?
not the majority, but there's an incredible amount that do have division, and it just breaks my heart. It pains me because it's very difficult for them to navigate grief in any state. But when there is challenges between them and there's strife between them, it filters it to a point that it can be very, very difficult, and it's so hard. And not the majority of the families, but a significant amount. So our good friend Chris says Steelers are on and I'm stressed, so I need your calming voice, ETU and Al. Well, we're here to help in any way we can. So even when football is stressing you out.
Talisha Young has another question. Why would a mortician not recommend embalming if you want your loved one shipped?
Shipped out of the state is it's almost always going to be required, except for if there is religious reasons. Then we can use dry ice. But generally speaking, embalming is going to be required for shipping via common carrier.
That might have been a clarification for her embalming question earlier. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And unless there was a situation where there was advanced stages of decomposition and the circulatory system, completely was, destroyed because of the, decomposition taking place from the inside out. And that could have been a reason. So they may have had to use, dry ice care for that reason.
This is from KT Parrott. If someone calls the funeral home and asks if you have the body of someone, are you allowed to tell?
It depends on if the family has asked for it to be private or public information. We always ask for it. We'll even put it, we have a page on our website that lists people that's in our care, but we always ask permission. And if the family wants them there, then they will be. If they've indicated they want that information to be private, then we just simply say that, there's no public information regarding that deceased. Lana Moom's Creations saying new gift goal. Did we reach our goal? Thank you,
Looks like you
everybody, so
did.
much. I greatly appreciate that. We're just going to be on for a few minutes, but we'll set up a brief gift goal. Let's see what kind of fun things we have on here for the new year in addition to Go ahead, honey, if you find something.
Okay. Do you close caskets at night?
We do. And generally speaking, we do close caskets. And the reason is mostly in case there's a fire in the building. I want there to be a little level of protection between that unfortunate event and the deceased to help protect them.
I'm so glad we got Talisha's answer about embalming. I think it just took a while to get to the right what she was looking for.
Okay.
So you did
perfect.
answer it.
Okay.
Panic says, want to be a last responder here. What is the hardest part of the job?
I think taking care of yourself and maintaining a healthy level, both emotionally and mentally. And it takes, there's a fun little gift goal. It takes a certain amount of acquired skill to be able to, have coping mechanisms built into you that you can, cope and care for yourself and kind of reset and regenerate when you have incredibly heavy days. My three are faith, family, and fun. And I reset and regenerate myself every single day, especially after the heavy ones, to make sure that I stay healthy mentally and emotionally. Kayla, thank you so much. Levanor, thank you so much. Gummy bears, I guess. Greta, thank you.
What causes stomach contents to come out before passing away?
Before passing away is not my expertise. After passing away is my expertise. But what I can tell you is based on my experience, and medical professionals have told me, is oftentimes people are just very sick, during that time, and their body is shutting down. And part of body shutting down is, the digestive system and the ability, there's muscles even, within our esophagus and other things that help, keep fluid down, and those start to give out and give up. And that can sometimes cause, fluid to escape and come up, in the final, times of, before the transitioning to death.
Gail Capraella says, do you see more cremations today than open casket? Seems like more folks are doing memorial services.
We see an increase in cremation. We're well over 50%. One of our, areas that we serve is almost 80%. But what I have seen an increase in is people doing traditional services. So casketed services before cremation. So they'll have a cremation casket. They'll maybe do a traditional viewing or traditional funeral to church, and then cremation after. But then there's also some amazing celebrations of life and memorial services without the body present, which are absolutely incredible as well. We even have started having people doing celebrations of life before the person actually dies. They've been diagnosed with a terminal illness, and the family decides to celebrate that life even before they pass away, and they're there to be honored, which is a whole nother level of celebrating a life. And I think it's incredible.
Tim527 says, my Catholic father is against cremation, but my mother wants to be cremated. Can they share a grave?
Yeah, absolutely. And the Catholic Church, as you know, is okay with fire cremation. They just want the cremated remains to remain whole, not to be scattered, and to go to a cemetery. So if one passes away and they want the cremated remains to go to that cemetery, that's perfectly fine in the church's eyes and doctrine, as well as the urn could simply go in the casket of the other person. And that's an option as well.
Why is a body so stiff after the embalming process?
Yeah, because the embalming process is a drying process. It chemically dries the tissue, and that's how it preserves. And that's going to stiffen and harden the tissue as well by dehydrating. It's kind of interesting because then as soon as we get done with the embalming, we kind of have to do things to kind of counteract and slow the dehydration, because we don't want it to be too much, because there can be some consequences to that as well.
JS 1972, can I buy a casket somewhere other than the funeral?
You can. There's different casket, third-party casket providers, including even Costco. I don't recommend it, and it's not because I don't want to sell you a casket. It's not because I want to sell you a casket. It's more because if you're under our care, you've hired us to control the quality of the whole experience. And if you buy a casket from somewhere else, and then that casket gets shipped in from a third-party shipper that, it's a freight provider that's going to deliver all kinds of things, and the casket, oftentimes will be delivered damaged or imperfect. I can't fix that. I can't resolve that. So I no longer can control the quality of that. So we simplify it. We have caskets that are the same price as Costco and other places because the casket really isn't important to us. The sale of the casket is not important to us. What's important to us is that we can control the whole quality. So once a family, there's really no price difference, and they understand we can control the quality. And if there's something wrong with the casket that we provide, we can immediately have it replaced the same day. Then generally they have a good understanding of that.
Taylor T023, do you have someone to care for every single day? If not, what do you do on those days, quote, off?
Well, with 3 separate funeral homes, and we're just adding a fourth, we pretty much have somebody that we're dealing with on a constant basis. But there's days that are slower than others. Listen, there's always something to do, whether it be maintenance, whether it be, getting cars ready, whether it be marketing, whether it be, now even, writing stories in putting the stories I have for TikTok and YouTube, down. So there's always, something to do. We also are very involved in the community outreach programs and things like that.
Blessed Mama 3.5, coroner came to pick up my deceased son. They made us leave the room saying, quote, you don't want to see this.
It can be very difficult to watch somebody leave the home, especially if a coroner's involved, because it's a unnatural, unexpected death. So I don't know what the situation was. But even in the hospice situations, we always ask the family if they want to remain in the room as we transfer the deceased over. Sometimes it's an imperfect, procedure. But oftentimes we'll get them transferred over. And if they do want to remain, that's perfectly fine too. But oftentimes we'll get them transferred over, get them covered up with their head uncovered, and then invite them back in to say their final goodbyes before we depart.
Davina DeVillian, what were the metal parts in my son's ashes?
So sometimes there's metal in the person if they have pins or other orthopedic devices that were in there. Most of the time the metal's removed at some of the smaller pieces, or if he was in a casket, there may have been staples or something in there. Sometimes even clothing that people have, whether it's, buttons on a jeans or some sort of stitching that can be metal, people will find those as well. So, all right, let's do a couple of more questions, honey. And then we are going to start to wind this live up as we take a little break and come on for our next one.
Patty O, as my mom passed, tears ran down her face. Was that tears? Nurse said no.
I don't know. I honestly don't know if it was tears or just her relaxing and, fluid coming out of those tear ducts that were in there. If it meant something to you, hold on to that. That's what's most important to her. Maybe it was tears of happiness. Maybe she saw something that was absolutely brilliant and just heart blowing to her, that you never see until that point. And maybe that was the cause of tears.
3-cat mom. My mom just passed on January 1st. I find it all overwhelming to be making, the decisions needed.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for your recent loss. And it can be overwhelming. Please take your time, allow yourself plenty of grace. I hope you have a good funeral home that's partnering with you that can help guide you. But don't be forced into any quick decisions. There's nothing that can't be held off another day or so as you make the right decisions for your family. So give yourself plenty of grace as you work your way through that. After the services are done, that's when your real grief journey is going to begin. So if you need any help with that or there's anything we can do, you're always welcome to come back here.
Mallory says, I inappropriately laugh or make jokes when I'm grieving. Should I avoid wakes?
No. I think, honestly, you're placed there for a specific reason. And sometimes it's just kind of to break the tension. And listen, we need laughter in a grief process sometimes. We need that. We need to be able to just find a little bit of joy in some of the worst situations. And maybe you're placed there to kind of provide that. So I would not stop going.
If a body has to be exhumed for lab purposes, doesn't the embalming fluid affect lab results?
So generally first of all, anything that's going to have to be taken generally is done before the embalming. We're going to make sure that the coroner medical examiners clear the remains before we do the embalming procedure. With that said, there's still things that can be taken, toxicology that can be taken even after the embalming that they can separate out. So it doesn't mean it can't be done. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult. But generally, it's not going to be the case, because until we get clearance from the coroner that they've gotten everything they need, then we're not going to move forward with that. All right. So I'm going to remind everyone as we start to come to a close for this evening, before we go on to our VIP live, if you haven't followed us already, please click the follow button. There's no greater honor to us, no greater gift than just simply that. Doesn't cost you anything to do that. Gives you a chance to check out. Thank you so much. Check out our content. Any heart me's that you have, you can drop those in as well. Almost 75 of you have followed us tonight, 74, 76 now. Thank you so much. We're greatly honored. That is the best gift that you can give us, and we greatly, greatly appreciate that. We are on live. If you're new to us, generally at least twice a week now, always on Sunday evenings, and we're working on the second night to try to have it scheduled. We're just trying to figure out the schedule as we start the new year, especially with kids' activities and everything. And then I do pop-ups, sometimes early in the mornings, sometimes on the weekend mornings, just depending on what we have going on at the funeral home. So you can always find us there as well. We are going to be taking a little break, and then we're going to come on for our VIP private live. You'll still get notification that we're live if you're not a subscriber, and which is perfectly fine. You can preview that for a minute, but the majority of our lives are still, open to the public. And I would say with the pop-up ones we generally do 3 to 4 a week. So you are always welcome to join us. If you do feel like subscribing, I think there is still, the first month is still 50% off, and you can do that. The VIP subscriber, thank you so much for the bear. The VIP subscriber is oftentimes more grief related. We come together supporting one another, both grief wise, just getting to know each other more of an intimate level, and just talking with one another, getting to know each other, which is always an incredible honor as well. So you're welcome to join us there if appropriate. If not, we will see you on the next live or our content. We greatly appreciate you joining us tonight. We always end, we kind of have a tradition where we end with one of our goodbye Porch songs. I've had requests to get these up somewhere online or on YouTube, which I'm going to work on. Many of you like our songs, our original songs that we've written and created specifically for our porch, talks, which is what we call our lives, even though we're not on the porch right now due to the weather. So we're going to end with a couple of those. As we do that, our tradition is for you to always put down in the comments where you're saying goodnight from tonight. We hope you have an incredible, restful evening. And as you move forward into the new year, may any grief that you carry, the memories you carry, you do so with love and comfort, and you gain strength out of those. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Washington, D.C. and Australia, Ontario, Texas. Thank you so much for joining NYC. Florida, from Virginia and Australia. Good night from Kentucky, Southern Belle from Louisiana. Good night from East Tennessee. You can still hit that follow button too if you want on your way out the door, so to speak. Good night from the UK. Thanks for joining us, Shelby. Southern Illinois and Oklahoma. We wish you finding that peace as well. Linda in California, Toronto, Canada. IP Way from Northern California. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We are grateful for you. Take care. From Louisiana, Oregon, You all are amazing. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you.
Tears may fall, but they don't stay long. They water the roots that make us strong. The night still hums that same old tune, a song of love beneath the moon. So light that lamp, let the shadows part. Is grace still waiting in every heart? Though the sorrow lingers, we're not alone. We find our peace here before we go home.
Good night, all. Take care.